Welcome back to Macro Golf YouTube. Today's video we're talking about the reason why the work you're doing to try and get a bigger backswing and working on a thoracic rotation might not be doing the job for you, and you might be kind of wondering why all of this work that you're putting in isn't really getting the results you were expecting. So we know that having a bigger backswing is seen to be of benefit. For me, I always like to kind of put together for the player the ability to do anything. So if they can have a big backswing, they can have that. Whether they use that or not is totally up to them and down to their coach. So I always think we shouldn't be restricted in any of these areas, and we should always be loosening these up so that if you ever need to get there, you can get there without any problems, any pain or any discomfort or any of that other stuff. So thinking about thoracic rotation, it's all the rotation basically separating the shoulders from the hips. So it comes from the middle part of our spine. So this is the ability to kind of rotate this way, okay? Obviously when we go with the golf swing, we take the hips with us, but the separation between the hips and the shoulders is what we're talking about when we're talking about this kind of rotation. So I'll show you on the mat. Like when we talk about this, the typical work that people will be doing, we go through some different stuff. So a typical thing you might see would be maybe to get kind of like in this position, and we'd be thinking about kind of rotating, keeping the hips nice and straight and rotating this way, which is great. We're kind of replicating that movement, and that will have some carry across to when we then go and do our golf swing. We might feel a little bit easier, a little bit freer in that section. So, okay, fine. This, I've not got a massive problem with it, but it's probably one small piece of a very, very big puzzle. So taking that a little bit further, what you might find is some people doing some kind of end range stretching. So you might find a resistance band anchored, and we're trying to kind of force ourselves around in this position. Now, if you've been following my stuff for a while, I'm not a massive fan of end range stretching. It has its place, but again, it's a very, very small piece of the puzzle. So some people might take that a little bit further, and they might start working maybe on something with a foam roller, and they might think about foam rolling across the middle part of their back, kind of directly into that area. Getting there, we're getting a little bit closer to where that might want to be. Some people that maybe they follow some of the stuff I do, some of the stuff that other people do, might start to use something like a lacrosse ball, and here we can kind of place the ball into our back. We can get on, we can start to do a little bit of mobilisation of the ribs and the thoracic spine itself. Great, we're getting there. But all of these things, and even kind of self-massages of the lats, we're getting there. So all of these things are great, but if we think about thoracic spine rotation and the ability to rotate, it's not only coming from our back. We've got all of this musculature, all of this structure on the front of our trunk, which also needs to be looked after, also needs to be stretched, needs to be massaged, needs to be mobilised, which is going to have a big restriction of the amount we can turn. When we're turning, this all turns as one unit. When I'm putting this way, you're seeing my sternum getting separated from my belly button, which is getting separated from my pubic bone. So all of this area needs to be able to rotate. If we can free up our back, we're halfway there, but we've got all of this musculature which isn't getting looked after. And when I say that our back is halfway there, it's probably not even halfway, because none of us also work on the muscles in the side. So we might do some strengthening work from here, which is great. But in terms of mobilising this and freeing this up to allow this big rotation, probably this is getting missed. And this is what I think the biggest aspect that people are missing out when they're looking for extra rotation and kind of simply working on the thoracic spine area from the back. So just a few things you can do. One I love to do, which is maybe using a peanut ball. You can use kind of massage ball or the foam roller, and that's to start working a little bit on your lats. You can actually work all the way from your lats down, all the way into the serrators, coming into the front of the chest as well, and you can work all the way down into the obliques and where they insert into the hip. So this is some work that very rarely gets done, and all of this musculature is really linked to this rotation. Especially if we're doing a lot of strength work, you might be working on the cables, you might be doing a lot of strength pulling this way, but you're never freeing up these sides, and they're going to get tight, they're going to get stiff, and it's really going to restrict your ability to rotate. So first thing I would recommend, some kind of self-massage, some kind of mobilisation on the outer side of the trunk here. Second part, across the gut, the amount of musculature and all interesting things that are going on here. It can get really tight between a belly button and a pubic bone. This area gets super tight. All of the kind of the rectus abdominis and the musculature at the front here also gets really tight. So I definitely recommend doing some kind of self-massage to the gut. You can do that with a foam roller. So I like to kind of lay down directly onto the roller and then scrub from side to side. You can roll on those areas and just do some stuff that's looking after the front of the gut. So when we're talking about thoracic rotation, it's great that some of us are starting to work into these movements. You're going to get some carry across. Some of us taking it a little bit further into some stretching. Some of us maybe, potentially, and probably not many of us, taking it into mobilisation of the thoracic spine, mobilisation into the ribs. But think of all of this musculature at the side and at the front, which is not being cared for, not being looked after, and not being worked on. So we're pretty much, if we're only working on the back, working on maybe 30% of this whole area that needs to be looked at. So if you are struggling for a little bit of thoracic spine rotation, you feel like you've done some stuff, you've done some rotation work, maybe you've even started to foam roll your back and mobilise your back, then you need to start working on these areas, the front and the side. Get mobilising them, get working on them, treating them with as much respect as your back. And I pretty much guarantee you will start to notice a difference in one, how you're feeling, how loose it is, and two, in your backswing and your length of your swing. Thank you for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed that, it'd be great. Hit the like button and obviously hit the subscribe button. Keep up to date with all of these videos as they're released.